My daughter-in-law raised her hand to me in front of her entire family, and when my son walked through that door, I thought finally someone would defend me. But when he looked at the bruise forming on my face and then looked at his wife, he did something I never expected. He took her side. In that moment, standing in my own living room, I felt more alone than I had ever felt in my entire 70 years of life. But let me start from the beginning, because to understand how I ended up there, bruised and betrayed, you need to know the whole story. My name is Margaret Foster. I'm 70 years old, a widow for the past 12 years, and I live in a modest home in Richmond, Virginia. It's the same house where I raised my only son, Daniel. The same house where my late husband Thomas and I built our life together over 43 years of marriage. I never imagined I'd still be living here alone at this age. The plan was always that Thomas and I would grow old together, maybe eventually move into one of those nice retirement communities where you can play cards and take art classes and not worry about maintaining a big house. But life, as I've learned, rarely follows our plans. Thomas passed away suddenly from a stroke 12 years ago, and I've been on my own ever since. Well, not completely on my own. I have Daniel, my son, my only child, the boy I raised to be kind, to be respectful, to stand up for what's right. Or at least I thought I did. Daniel is 42 years old now. He's a successful accountant at a firm downtown. He's always been a good son, calling me regularly, visiting on weekends, making sure I had everything I needed. After his father died, he became even more attentive, checking in on me constantly, worrying about me living alone in this big house. "Mom, why don't you move into something smaller?" he'd say. "This place is too much for you to handle by yourself." But I couldn't leave. This house holds too many memories. Thomas built the back deck with his own hands. We planted the rose garden together. Every room tells a story of our life, so I stayed, and I managed just fine on my own. I kept the house clean, tended the garden, went to my book club every Thursday, volunteered at the community center on Tuesdays. I had a life, a good life. Then 5 years ago, Daniel met Vanessa. I'll never forget the first time he brought her home to meet me. It was a Sunday afternoon in April. I'd made my special roast chicken with all the trimmings, set the table with my good china, put fresh flowers in a vase. I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted her to like me, to see that Daniel came from a good family, that he'd been raised right. Vanessa walked in wearing designer jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my entire outfit. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall, with glossy dark hair and perfect makeup. She worked in marketing at some big company, made good money, drove a luxury car. "Mom, this is Vanessa," Daniel said, his face glowing with happiness. "Vanessa, this is my mom, Margaret. It's so nice to meet you, Mrs. Foster," Vanessa said, giving me a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She shook my hand limply, barely making contact. Throughout dinner, I tried to make conversation, asking her about her work, her family, her interests. She answered in short sentences, checking her phone repeatedly, seeming bored by the whole thing. At one point, I mentioned that the chicken recipe had been Thomas's favorite, that I'd been making it for 40 years. Vanessa looked at her plate and said, "Oh, I'm actually trying to cut back on carbs. I probably shouldn't have eaten the potatoes." It was a small thing, but it stung. I'd spent hours preparing this meal, and she couldn't even pretend to appreciate it, but Daniel was smitten. Completely head over heels, he looked at her like she hung the moon and stars. After they left that evening, I stood in my kitchen washing dishes and feeling uneasy. Something about Vanessa didn't sit right with me, but I told myself I was being overly critical, overly protective. No woman would ever be good enough for my son in my eyes, right? That's what mothers are like. I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. They dated for 2 years before Daniel proposed. During that time, I saw Vanessa maybe a dozen times. She always seemed reluctant to visit, always had some excuse. Too much work, too tired, plans with her own family. When Daniel told me they were engaged, I smiled and hugged him and told him I was happy for him, and I tried to be, I really did. The wedding was a lavish affair at an expensive venue downtown. Vanessa's family paid for most of it. Her parents, Richard and Diane, were wealthy. Her father owned several car dealerships. Her mother didn't work, just shopped and went to the spa and organized charity galas. At the wedding, I barely saw Daniel. He was surrounded by Vanessa's huge family and their wealthy friends. I sat at a table with some of Daniel's colleagues from work, feeling out of place in my department store dress while everyone else wore designer labels. During the reception, Vanessa's mother, Diane, came over to my table. She'd had a few glasses of champagne and was feeling chatty. "You must be so proud," she said, sitting down next to me. "Daniel is such a catch. Vanessa is so lucky." "Daniel is lucky too," I replied. Vanessa seems like a lovely girl. Diane laughed, a sharp sound. Well, I'm just glad she finally settled down. We were starting to worry she'd never find anyone up to her standards. But Daniel, he's perfect. Stable job, good income, no drama. She leaned in closer. And the best part, no baggage, no crazy ex-wives, no kids from previous relationships, just you, and you seem very manageable, manageable. The word echoed in my head long after she walked away. After the wedding, Daniel and Vanessa moved into a beautiful new house in an upscale neighborhood across town. It was about a 40-minute drive from my place. You'll come visit all the time, Mom, Daniel assured me. We have a guest room all set up for you. But the visits became less and less frequent. Daniel was busy with work. Vanessa was busy with her career. They were busy with their new life together. I understood. Newlyweds need their space. I didn't want to be the overbearing mother-in-law who couldn't let go, but I missed my son. I missed our Sunday dinners, our long phone conversations, his random weekday visits just to check on me. Now, when we talked on the phone, the conversations were shorter, distracted. I could hear Vanessa in the background sometimes, saying something to him, and he'd cut our call short. Sorry, Mom, I have to go. Vanessa needs help with something. Always Vanessa needed something. The first real problem came about 6 months after the wedding. It was Thanksgiving. I'd assumed, as I always had, that Daniel would come to my house for Thanksgiving dinner. It was our tradition. Since Thomas died, Daniel had never missed a Thanksgiving with me. But 3 days before Thanksgiving, Daniel called. Mom, about Thursday, Vanessa's family is having a big Thanksgiving at their place. Her parents really want us there. All her siblings will be there with their kids. It's going to be this whole thing. My heart sank. Oh, I see. You understand, right? I mean, we spent last Thanksgiving with you. Actually, honey, last Thanksgiving was the first one after you got married. You and Vanessa went on that cruise, remember? There was a pause. Oh, right, but still, Mom, Vanessa's family is really insistent, and you know how her mother gets. What about me? I asked quietly. Am I supposed to spend Thanksgiving alone? Well, I mean, you could come with us to Vanessa's parents' house. Am I invited? Another pause, longer this time. I'll ask Vanessa. He called back an hour later. Vanessa says her mom is doing a sit-down dinner and the seating is all arranged, so it might be weird to add another person. But we'll come see you Friday, okay? We'll have a second Thanksgiving dinner with you on Friday. I spent Thanksgiving alone that year. I made a small chicken breast for myself, watched the parade on TV by myself, and went to bed early. Daniel and Vanessa did come over on Friday, but they only stayed for an hour. Vanessa barely touched the food I'd made, claiming she was still full from yesterday's feast. They left early because Vanessa's sister was having a post-Thanksgiving party. That became the pattern. Holidays were spent with Vanessa's family. I got the day after, the consolation prize, the leftover time. Christmas, Easter, 4th of July, always Vanessa's family first. Her family is just so big, Mom, Daniel would explain, and they're all so close, they'd be really hurt if we didn't show up. And what about me? I wanted to scream. What about hurting me? But I didn't say it. I didn't want to be that mother, the guilt-tripping, manipulative mother who made her son feel bad for having a life. So I swallowed my hurt and smiled and said, "Of course, honey, I understand. Family is important." But apparently I wasn't family anymore, not the right kind anyway. The second year of their marriage, things got worse. Daniel's visits became even more infrequent. Sometimes 2 or 3 weeks would go by without seeing him. When he did visit, it was always rushed. He'd come alone without Vanessa, stay for maybe 30 minutes, check that I was alive and the house hadn't burned down, and then leave. Vanessa's not feeling well, he'd say, or Vanessa has plans with her friends, or Vanessa is busy with work. Always an excuse for why she couldn't come. I started to suspect that Vanessa didn't like me, though I couldn't figure out why. I'd always been polite to her, always tried to include her, always complimented her and showed interest in her life. But there was a coldness there, a wall I couldn't penetrate. Then came my birthday, my 68th birthday, 2 years ago. Daniel had always made a big deal of my birthday. Even as an adult, he'd take me out to dinner, bring me flowers, spend the whole day with me. It was our special tradition. But that year on my birthday, Daniel called in the morning. "Happy birthday, Mom. Thank you, sweetheart. Listen, I'm so sorry, but I can't make it for dinner tonight. Vanessa planned this surprise party for one of her colleagues, and we have to go. It's been planned for weeks." Oh, I tried to keep the disappointment out of my voice. "That's okay. I'll take you out this weekend, I promise. We'll go somewhere nice." But that weekend came and went with no word from Daniel. When I finally called him the following Tuesday, he apologized profusely. "I'm so sorry, Mom. It's been crazy. Work has been insane, but we'll do it soon, I promise." We never did. I spent my 68th birthday alone, eating a frozen dinner and watching old movies, crying quietly into my wine glass. That's when the loneliness really started to set in. The kind of loneliness that sits in your chest like a stone, heavy and cold. I had friends, yes. My book club ladies, my volunteer group, but it's not the same as family. It's not the same as your own child. I started to wonder if I'd done something wrong. Had I offended Vanessa somehow? Had I been too overbearing when they first got married? Had I criticized something without realizing it? I racked my brain, replaying every interaction, every conversation, but I couldn't think of anything. The truth, I eventually realized, was simpler and more painful. Vanessa just didn't like me. I represented Daniel's old life, the life before her. I was a reminder that he had a family before she came along, obligations that existed before she existed in his world, and she was slowly, methodically cutting me out of his life. I could see it happening, but I felt powerless to stop it. Every time I tried to talk to Daniel about it, he'd brush it off. "You're being paranoid, Mom. Vanessa likes you fine. We're just busy, that's all. Life gets hectic." But I knew better. A mother knows. The third year of their marriage brought a new development. Vanessa got pregnant. Daniel called me with the news, and I was genuinely thrilled. A grandchild, finally something to bring us together, something to give me a role in their lives again. I'm going to be a grandmother. I cried, tears of joy streaming down my face. "Oh, Daniel, I'm so happy for you both. Thanks, Mom. We're really excited. I can't wait to help out. I can babysit. I can cook meals for you when the baby comes. I can." "That's really nice, Mom, but Vanessa's mom has already offered to help out. She's going to stay with us for the first month after the baby is born." "Oh, well, I can help too. There's plenty for everyone to do with a new baby." "Sure, Mom, sure," but I could hear it in his voice, the placating tone. The empty promise. During Vanessa's pregnancy, I barely saw them. I'd call to check in, to ask how she was feeling, if they needed anything. The conversations were always brief. "She's fine, Mom. Everything's fine. I'll call you later." I offered to throw a baby shower. "Vanessa's sister and her mom are handling that," Daniel said. "I offered to help set up the nursery." "We've got it covered, Mom." I offered to go to a doctor's appointment with them. "Vanessa's mom goes with us," Daniel said. Every offer was rejected. Every attempt to be involved was shut down. It was like I didn't exist. The baby, a beautiful little girl named Sophie, was born on a Tuesday in October. Daniel called me from the hospital. "She's here, Mom. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. She's perfect. Can I come see her?" I asked, my heart soaring. "Maybe give us a few days to settle in. Vanessa's parents are here and her sister, and it's kind of crowded. But soon, okay." A few days turned into a week. A week turned into 2 weeks. Every time I called, there was an excuse. "Vanessa's really tired. The baby's been fussy. We're not up for visitors yet." Finally, 3 weeks after Sophie was born, I was allowed to visit. For 1 hour, I drove to their house, my arms full of gifts. A handmade baby blanket I'd been knitting for months, clothes, toys, books. Vanessa's mother, Diane, answered the door. "Oh, Margaret," she said, her tone making it clear I was an inconvenience. "We weren't expecting you for another hour." "Daniel told me 2 o'clock, I said, checking my watch. It was exactly 2 o'clock. "Did he? Well, Vanessa's feeding the baby right now. You'll have to wait." I waited in the living room for 45 minutes. I could hear voices upstairs, laughter. Vanessa's family was up there, cooing over the baby. Finally, Daniel came down, carrying Sophie. "Here she is, Mom, your granddaughter." I reached for her and my heart melted. She was beautiful. Tiny and perfect, with Daniel's nose and Vanessa's dark hair. "Oh, she's gorgeous," I whispered, tears filling my eyes. I held her for maybe 10 minutes before Vanessa appeared at the top of the stairs. "Daniel, she needs to be changed, and it's almost time for her nap." Daniel immediately took Sophie from my arms. "Sorry, Mom, maybe next time you can hold her longer." I left shortly after, feeling like I'd been tolerated rather than welcomed. That visit set the tone for the next 2 years. I was allowed to see my granddaughter, but only in small, controlled doses. Always at their house, never at mine. Always with Vanessa's family present, never alone. Birthday parties were huge events with Vanessa's entire extended family. I'd show up with a gift, sing happy birthday with everyone else, and leave. No special grandmother time, no real connection. I tried to be patient, I tried to be understanding, but the exclusion was killing me. And Daniel, my sweet Daniel, seemed completely oblivious to it all. Or maybe he wasn't oblivious, maybe he just didn't care. That was the thought that kept me up at night. The possibility that my son knew exactly what was happening and was choosing his wife over his mother. That he was okay with me being pushed to the margins of his life. I'd raised him better than that, hadn't I? But then I'd think about all the small ways he'd changed since marrying Vanessa, the way he talked, using her vocabulary. The way he dressed in the expensive clothes she picked out, the way he spent money matching her lifestyle, the friends they had, all from her world. She'd molded him into the husband she wanted, and that husband didn't have much room for his mother. then came last month. The incident that changed everything. It was Sophie's third birthday party, a massive affair at Daniel and Vanessa's house. They'd rented a bounce house, hired a face painter, ordered a custom 3-tier cake from an expensive bakery. I arrived with my gift, a handmade dollhouse I'd spent months working on. I'd built it myself, painted it, made tiny furniture for each room. It was a labor of love. The house was packed with people. Vanessa's entire family was there. Her parents, her 3 siblings and their spouses, her nieces and nephews, her cousins. Probably 40 people total. I recognized a few faces from previous gatherings, but no one approached me. I stood in the corner of the backyard, holding my gift, watching everyone else laugh and talk and enjoy themselves. Daniel was at the grill with Vanessa's father and brothers-in-law. Vanessa was holding court by the dessert table with her mother and sisters, showing off some new piece of jewelry. No one said hello to me. No one acknowledged I was there. I made my way over to Daniel. "Hi, sweetheart." He looked up, startled. "Oh, hey, Mom. You made it?" "Of course I made it. It's Sophie's birthday." "Right, yeah, thanks for coming." He turned back to the grill. That was it. That was my greeting from my son. I found Sophie in the bounce house with a swarm of other children. I waited for her to come out holding my carefully wrapped gift. "Sophie, sweetie, happy birthday." She looked at me blankly. "Thank you. I made something special for you. Do you want to open it?" "I have to ask Mommy first." She ran off before I could say anything else. I stood there, holding the dollhouse, feeling foolish. A few minutes later, Vanessa's sister Karen approached me. I'd met her a few times at previous gatherings. She'd never been particularly warm. "That's a big gift," she said, eyeing the dollhouse. "Where are you supposed to put it?" "I thought maybe Sophie's room. Her room is full. They just got her a new bedroom set. There's no space for more stuff." "Oh, well, maybe the playroom?" Karen shrugged. "You'd have to ask Vanessa. But she's really particular about what goes in there. She likes everything to match." The implication was clear. My homemade gift wouldn't meet Vanessa's standards. "I'll just give it to Daniel to deal with," I said, my face burning. I set the dollhouse on the gift table, which was already overflowing with elaborately wrapped presents, and retreated back to my corner. The party continued around me. I watched my son laugh with Vanessa's family. I watched my granddaughter blow out candles surrounded by people who weren't me. I watched Vanessa and her mother cut the cake, playing the role of matriarch while I stood invisible at the edge. At one point, I went inside to use the bathroom. As I was washing my hands, I heard voices in the hallway, Vanessa and her mother. "I don't know why Daniel even invited her," Vanessa was saying. "She just stands there looking pathetic. It's depressing." "She is rather tragic," Diane agreed. "All alone in that old house, you'd think she'd have more of a life. Well, that's not our problem. I've been patient enough letting her come to these things, but honestly, she adds nothing. Sophie barely knows who she is. Maybe you should talk to Daniel about limiting her visits. It's not fair to you to have to deal with her." "Oh, I have," Daniel agrees. "We're going to start saying we're busy when she asks to visit." They moved away, their voices fading. I stood in that bathroom, gripping the sink, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Tears were streaming down my face, but I made no sound. This was it. This was how little I mattered. I left the party without saying goodbye. No one noticed. I drove home in a daze, parked in my driveway, and sat in my car for an hour, crying. That night, Daniel called. "Hey, Moms, you left early. Everything okay?" I almost told him what I'd heard, but what would be the point? He'd chosen his side long ago. "I wasn't feeling well," I lied. "Oh, okay, well, thanks for coming, and thanks for the dollhouse. It's really elaborate, not beautiful. Not amazing, not thank you for spending months making something by hand for my daughter. Elaborate, you're welcome," I said, my voice hollow. After that call, I made a decision. I was done trying, done hoping, done waiting for crumbs of affection from my son. If they didn't want me in their lives, fine, I'd stop forcing it. I stopped calling Daniel every few days. I stopped asking to visit. I stopped trying to make plans, and you know what? No one noticed. 2 weeks went by without a word from Daniel, then 3 weeks. Then a month, on the 5-week mark, he finally called. "Hey, Mom, sorry I haven't called. Work's been crazy. How are you?" "Fine," I said. "That's good. Listen, Vanessa and I were thinking of going on a little getaway next month, just the 2 of us. Her parents are going to watch Sophie, but we wanted to check your calendar first, make sure we're not missing anything important." "My calendar, yeah, like you don't have any doctor's appointments or anything we should know about, right?" He wasn't asking to see if I wanted to spend time with them. He was checking to make sure I wouldn't be an inconvenience. "No," I said, "no appointments." "You go ahead and enjoy your trip." "Great, thanks, Mom. I'll call you soon, okay?" He didn't call. That was 2 months ago. 2 months of silence. 2 months of feeling like I didn't have a son anymore. My friends at book club noticed I was down. "Everything all right, Margaret?" Helen asked one Thursday evening. Just tired, I said, forcing a smile, but Helen knew me too well. After the meeting, she pulled me aside. It's Daniel, isn't it, and that wife of his? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak without crying. Oh, honey, Helen said, pulling me into a hug. Some daughters in law are just like that, territorial, controlling. It's not your fault. I don't know what I did wrong, I whispered. You didn't do anything wrong. Some people just don't value family the way we do. But you can't let it destroy you. You have to build a life that doesn't revolve around Daniel. She was right, of course, but it's hard to let go of your only child, hard to accept that you're not wanted. I tried to focus on other things, my volunteering, my garden, my friends, but there was always this hollow ache in my chest, this feeling of being untethered, unneeded. And then came last Tuesday, the day that changed everything. I got a phone call from Daniel in the morning. I almost didn't answer, still hurt from the weeks of silence. But I did. Hey, Mom, listen, I need a favor. A favor, not how are you, not I miss you. A favor. What is it? I asked, my tone colder than intended. Vanessa's having a thing at our house today. Her family's coming over for a little get-together. Nothing big, but our cleaning lady canceled last minute and the house is a mess. Could you possibly come over and help clean up a bit before everyone arrives? I was silent, processing. He wanted me to come clean his house so he could entertain his wife's family. Daniel, I'm not your maid. I know, Mom, I know, I wouldn't ask, but we're in a bind. Please, it would really help us out. Something in his pleading voice got to me. Or maybe it was the desperate hope that this could be a way back in, a way to be useful, to be needed. What time? I asked, already regretting it. Could you come around 1? The party starts at 4, so that gives you a few hours. Fine. I showed up at 1 o'clock, wearing my oldest clothes, ready to clean. Vanessa met me at the door. She didn't say hello or thank you, just the vacuum is in the hall closet. Start with the living room and dining room. Make sure you dust everything. And the bathrooms need scrubbing. She walked away before I could respond. I spent the next 3 hours cleaning my son's house from top to bottom, vacuuming, dusting, scrubbing toilets, wiping down counters. Daniel was nowhere to be seen. Apparently, he'd gone to pick up food for the party. Vanessa stayed in her room, getting ready. At 3:30, I finished. The house was spotless. I found Vanessa in the kitchen, arranging appetizers on platters. I'm all done, I said. She barely glanced up. Okay, do you need help with anything else? No, we're good. You can go now. I stood there, exhausted and hurt. Vanessa, can I ask you something? What? Have I done something to offend you? Because I feel like you don't like me and I don't understand why. She stopped what she was doing and looked at me, really looked at me, and what I saw in her eyes was not guilt or remorse, it was contempt. You want to know the truth, Margaret? Yes, fine, you're clingy, you're needy. You're always trying to insert yourself into our lives, into our family. Daniel and I have our own life now. We don't need you hovering around trying to be relevant. Her words hit me like physical blows. I'm his mother, I said, my voice shaking, and I'm his wife. I'm his future, you're his past. The sooner you accept that, the better off everyone will be. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. That's my family, Vanessa said. You should leave, but I didn't leave. I couldn't, my legs wouldn't move. I stood there in the kitchen, frozen, as Vanessa went to answer the door. I heard voices in the foyer. Vanessa's parents, her siblings, their loud greetings and laughter. They all moved into the living room, the room I'd just spent an hour cleaning. I followed, standing in the doorway. Vanessa's mother, Diane, saw me first. Her smile faltered. Margaret, I didn't know you'd be here. I was just leaving, I said quietly, but Vanessa spoke up. Actually, Mom asked her to help clean before you all arrived. She's been here scrubbing toilets all afternoon. The way she said it with that mocking tone made it clear what she thought of me. The hired help. Diane's eyebrows rose. Oh, well, that was helpful of you. Vanessa's sister, Karen, smirked. Very domestic of you, Margaret. They were laughing at me. All of them standing in the living room I just cleaned, judging me, finding me pathetic. Something inside me snapped. Where's Daniel? I demanded. He's not here yet, Vanessa said dismissively. He'll be back soon. I'll wait for him. Actually, this is a family gathering and you weren't invited, so if you could just— I'm Daniel's family, I interrupted, my voice rising. I'm his mother. I have more right to be here than any of you. Vanessa's face hardened. This is my house. And I'm asking you to leave, not until I talk to Daniel. She stepped closer to me. I said leave. No. What happened next happened so fast. Vanessa reached out and grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Get out of my house, you pathetic old woman. I tried to pull away. Let go of me. She pushed me hard. I stumbled backward, my feet tangling, and fell. My hip hit the hardwood floor with a crack, and pain exploded through my body. I cried out. For a moment there was silence. I looked up from the floor and Vanessa was standing over me. Her family was behind her, watching. No one moved to help me. You shouldn't have pushed her, Vanessa, Karen said, but her tone was mild, unconcerned. She wouldn't leave, Vanessa said defensively. What was I supposed to do? I struggled to sit up, my hip screaming in protest. Tears of pain and humiliation streamed down my face. Help me, I said, reaching out. No one moved. Diane sighed. Maybe we should call Daniel. No, Vanessa said quickly. He's almost here anyway. Let's just move to the dining room. And they did. They stepped over me, lying on the floor, and moved to the other room. I heard them talking, laughing as if nothing had happened. I pulled myself up using a chair, every movement agony. I managed to get to my feet, leaning heavily on the furniture. My purse was in the kitchen. I limped there, each step torture, and grabbed it. I had to get out, had to leave before I completely broke down. I made it to my car and sat behind the wheel, shaking. My hip throbbed, my pride was shattered. I should drive home, but something made me stay. I wanted Daniel to see. I wanted him to know what his wife had done. I waited. 20 minutes later, Daniel's car pulled into the driveway. I got out of my car, limping toward him. He saw me and frowned. Mom. What are you doing here? Your wife pushed me, I said, my voice breaking. She pushed me down, Daniel, in front of her family, and no one helped me. He looked confused. What are you talking about? Go inside, look at your floor. I fell, Daniel. I could be seriously hurt. He glanced toward the house, then back at me. Mom, Vanessa wouldn't ask her. I shouted, ask your wife what she did. He walked past me to the house. I followed, pain shooting through my hip with every step. We entered together. Vanessa and her family were in the dining room, drinks in hand, chatting pleasantly. They all looked up when we walked in. There you are, Vanessa said to Daniel, smiling. We were wondering when you'd get back. Daniel looked at his wife, then at me, then back at his wife. Vanessa, my mom says you pushed her. Vanessa's expression didn't change. That's not what happened. Then what happened? She was being difficult, Vanessa said calmly. I asked her to leave multiple times and she refused. I may have taken her arm to guide her toward the door and she pulled away and lost her balance. She fell on her own. That's not true, I cried. You pushed me. You grabbed my arm and pushed me. All eyes were on me. Vanessa's family standing together, a united front. We were all here, Diane said. Margaret was being quite aggressive. Vanessa barely touched her. She's exaggerating, Karen added. You know how old people can be. They fall easily and then blame others. I looked at Daniel, willing him to believe me, to see the truth, to choose me just this once. Mom, he said slowly, maybe you did just lose your balance. I mean, you're not as steady on your feet as you used to be. Daniel, she pushed me on purpose. I'm hurt. He looked at my hip where I was pressing my hand. Are you bleeding? No, but then you're probably fine, maybe just bruised. I stared at my son, at the man I'd raised, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, and he didn't believe me. Daniel, please, I whispered. He looked uncomfortable, torn. But when he glanced at Vanessa, when he saw her standing there with her family, all of them watching him, waiting to see what he'd do, I saw him make his choice. Mom, I think you should go. You're upset and you're making a scene. Let's talk about this later when everyone's calmed down. The words were a knife to my heart. I'm making a scene, I repeated. Your wife assaulted me and I'm making a scene. She didn't assault you, Mom, you fell. And now you're embarrassing yourself and me by making these accusations. That's when I felt it, the complete and utter loneliness, the devastating realization that I was truly, completely alone. My son didn't believe me, didn't defend me, didn't choose me. He'd chosen her and her family. In their version of events, I was nothing to him. I see, I said quietly. I turned and walked out. Each step was agony, but I didn't let them see me cry. I held my head high until I reached my car, then I broke down. I cried so hard I couldn't see to drive. I sat in that driveway, sobbing, while inside my son laughed and ate and celebrated with the family that mattered to him. Not me, never me again. When I finally stopped crying, I drove home. I took some pain medication for my hip and lay down on my bed, staring at the ceiling. That was 3 days ago. Daniel hasn't called, hasn't checked to see if I'm okay, hasn't apologized, nothing, and I finally understand. I've been mourning the loss of my son for years, but I kept hoping, kept thinking things would change. They won't. He's gone. The Daniel I raised, the boy who loved me, who needed me, he's gone. This new Daniel, the one molded by Vanessa, the one who cares more about his wife's approval than his mother's pain, that's who he is now. And I have to accept it. I have to let him go. Yesterday, I made some decisions. First, I called a lawyer. I'm updating my will. Everything I have, this house, my savings, all of it is going to charity. Daniel won't get a penny. He's made it clear I'm not family, so he won't be treated as family. Second, I'm moving forward with my life. I'm going to take that trip to Europe I've always wanted to take. I'm going to join more clubs, make more friends, build a life that doesn't revolve around waiting for my son to remember I exist. Third, and most importantly, I'm letting go. I'm releasing the hope that's been poisoning me, the hope that Daniel will wake up and realize what he's lost, the hope that he'll choose me. He won't, and I'm done waiting. Some people ask me if I think I did the right thing by leaving that day. If maybe I should have stayed and fought harder, but what would I have been fighting for? A relationship that only existed in my memory, a son who stopped being mine years ago. No, I did the right thing. I walked away with my dignity intact. Vanessa won. She got exactly what she wanted, Daniel all to herself with no interfering mother-in-law. But here's what she doesn't know. Here's what Daniel doesn't know. They didn't break me. They freed me. For years, I've been living in limbo, not fully letting go, but not fully having him either. Always hoping, always waiting. Now I know, now I'm certain. And certainty, even painful certainty, is better than hope that slowly kills you. I spent 70 years being someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's mother, always defined by my relationships to others. Maybe it's time to just be Margaret. Just be me. I have friends who care about me. I have a life I can still enjoy. I have time left to make new memories that don't involve waiting by the phone for a call that never comes. So, to anyone reading this, anyone who's been where I am, pushed aside by your own child, replaced by their spouse, made to feel invisible, I want you to know something. You're not alone, and you're not crazy, and it's not your fault. Some people don't value family the way they should. Some people forget where they came from, who raised them, who loved them first and longest. That's their loss, their failure, not yours. Your job isn't to keep trying forever. Your job isn't to accept crumbs and be grateful. Your job is to know your worth, to demand respect. And if you don't get it, to walk away, even from your own child, especially from your own child, because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop loving people who don't love you back. That's where I am now, learning to let go. Learning to move on. It hurts. God, it hurts, but I'll survive. I always have. And maybe, just maybe, I'll even thrive. So tell me, what would you have done in my situation? Was I wrong to leave? Should I have stayed and fought? Or was walking away the right choice? Let me know in the comments where you're from and what you think. And if this story resonated with you, please leave a like so I can keep sharing these real experiences. Thank you for listening to my story, for bearing witness to my pain, for making me feel less alone. Until next time.